Welcome to Damon Ray Mitchell, Email Strategies. I'm Damon. Here we're going to talk about email strategies. Duh. Email close-ups. That's where we take a look at like an email or a few emails and talk about what's working and maybe what could work a little bit better. If we get lucky, we'll do some interviews. Hopefully not just like my mom or something. Thank you so much for checking out my channel. One of the most common mistakes made by business owners, not just gym owners, is believing that they can run their entire digital marketing strategy with social media. In some cases, they may do that for a long time before discovering that what they're really doing is digital sharecropping. While nobody's worried about a beast like Facebook or one of its ancillary platforms going belly up anytime soon, at the end of the day, and no matter what, you're always going to have to play by their rules when you're on their platform. Now, before this starts to sound like a rag session on social media, I use social media. I use it personally, I use it professionally. You probably found this video via some social media channel. This is the thing that you have to keep in mind about social media. You own nothing. Nothing but the content that you share there. Those social media platforms will only ever tell you what information you need in order to set up your campaigns. But you'll never own the most important data. Right? You'll never be able to personalize messaging the way that you can with email marketing. The best thing about email marketing is that it is everything you think it is, but not necessarily in the way that you tend to think about it. I don't think so. How many times did I just say think? Email marketing is not only a sales machine, it's a sales culture machine, which in turn makes it your ideal digital retention machine. It is everything you think it is, but it's so much more. Now, before email marketing can become your digital retention machine, you have to earn that right to ask to keep that business. We talked about three machines: a sales machine, a sales culture machine, and then that digital retention machine. Let's dive into those a little bit and talk about why those should matter to you as a gym owner. As a sales machine, I'm not talking about promotional emails, the sort of emails you send to promote an event or maybe a promotion you have going on inside of your club. I'm talking about the sort of emails that build up to a purchase of the most important thing that you sell, which is access. I'm talking about a lead nurture sequence. I talk about lead nurture sequences all the time. So if you haven't watched one of those videos, I strongly recommend you check it out. Here's the quick version. A lead nurture sequence is where you move a digital prospect down the funnel from their pain point to an enrollment. And you might ask, so what's a digital prospect? Well, that's anyone who won't enroll by more traditional means. So we're talking about people that won't just walk into your club, meandering in just to check things out. They won't get on the phone with you. They probably even ignore your texts. So now you're thinking, well, can't I just get those leads via social media? I mean, they're on Facebook. Everybody's on Facebook. They're on the gram. I should be able to just find those leads on social media. There's three problems with that. Number one, social media will inevitably scare away a certain percentage of your prospects, either because they simply don't like the structure of social media and being tracked, or maybe they feel like it's a little judgy. Number two, you can't track customer journeys in social media. The people who own those platforms probably could, but good luck getting that data. And then number three, social media will never establish a culture of sales. Not in the way that you can do it with email. On social media, you can promote something that you're selling inside, a service or a product, to your existing customers. But trying to reach out to prospects, especially the ones that won't even get on that platform, it's not going to happen the way that it can beautifully unfold on email. On email, your messaging will be more personal. And as you bring data into your CRM, that personalization only increases. As a sales culture machine, a culture of sales is not the same as a high-pressure sales environment. When I used to work in corporate fitness, we used to have closeouts. If you've been in fitness for any length of time, you've heard of closeout. The idea is that buying leads to more buying. And for the most part, it was actually pretty true. We would do huge numbers on those days. But at the expense of what? It was a pretty high pressure sales environment. That's not what I'm talking about. A culture of sales is different. Whereas a high pressure sales environment is one where your members start to dread going to the gym. They're going to be presented with another sales pitch for another product or another service that they just have to have, like every single time. It starts to feel oppressive. Now, a culture of sales, on the other hand, is one where your members feel comfortable with your suggestions for like ancillary products and services because they like you and they trust you. You offer those purchases as real solutions to their problems because you know what those problems are and you know what will solve them. And it's not like every single day there's a thing you should get or a thing you should buy. So where does email come into this? We were talking about leads, these prospects, people have no idea about you or your business. And now we're talking about this culture of sales where people trust you and like you. Email bridges the gap. Email's the thing that reaches into a person's inbox, a very private space for people, where they're open, if you say the right things, to hearing what you have to say. That's where we start to build to our retention machine. But before we can get there are a few logistics that have to be set up. There's a little bit of work that has to go into play before you can just suddenly put on that hero cape and save members. Two things come to mind as the most important, with a few caveats and addendums, which I'll get into. Number one, your ESP and your CRM should communicate as robustly as possible. That means you're collecting good data. That means everybody on your team is invested in and understands the value of collecting good data. Number two, you should have the appropriate emails set up to ship based on event triggers. An event trigger is an action captured digitally. So it could be actually something done online, through a person's inbox, something they do on social media. It could also be something that they do in club that's captured digitally. And when that event happens, it triggers an email or a series of emails. So let's talk about some examples that might come to mind. Number one, say a member stops coming to the gym for a predetermined period of time. So you'd have an email ready to go, personalized, possibly with their name and the date of their last visit, and maybe you invite them to meet for free with a trainer. And at the end of the email, there's a call to action with a link that takes them to a booking site where they can just book that session with that trainer. In order for that email to ship the way you want it to ship, there would have to be the appropriate event triggers set up, captured by your CRM, communicated to your ESP. How about another example? So let's say a member shops your online store, but they abandon while they're browsing. Now, you know who they are. Well, your CRM and your ESP know who they are. They're being cookied and tracked online. They were interested in that product, but they just checked out for some reason or another. Your ESP can send them an email, urging them to revisit their consideration and possibly make that purchase. That all happens automatically without you doing anything. But it requires that you have everything set up in advance. Data captured, triggers, CRM, ESP. Gee, Damon, this is starting to sound like a high-pressure sales environment, not this fancy culture of sales thing you're talking about. If you started the relationship with this person via email, via a lead nurture sequence that was warm and simple, they won't wonder why you're suddenly sending them these sort of emails. Hey, it looks like you left something. Did you want to purchase it? They like you and they trust you, so they go along with your suggestion, even though it's all being done automatically by your ESP. Now, skipping steps in this will absolutely make this circumstance feel awkward. If out of the blue, I'm a member of yours and I've never received anything more than maybe a single welcome email or a purchase receipt, and now you're watching my online behavior and sending me emails, yeah, that's not cool. This all brings us to the retention machine. Nobody wants to get to the point of having to save a member. I mean, sure, it feels great, and it beats losing them for more than one reason. I mean, number one, you're trying to be that place for your members and for your prospects. And number two, it may cost more to replace them from a revenue standpoint, depending on your marketing plan and your budget. If you don't have that culture of sales via email marketing in place, there will be little or nothing you can do with emails to save a member at risk of churning. But if you have a culture of sales in place, especially via email, then it will be much easier to have a retention machine in place. You see how that works? Members who are used to hearing from you via email because they've been hearing from you via email since before they were members will not be shocked when you send them an email inviting them to meet with a trainer. In fact, if it gets to that point, it may be the only move that you have, especially if they just stop showing up to the gym and maybe they've changed their cell phone number, or they're ignoring your texts and your calls because they knew who you are and they know why you're calling. The only way to do this, as I see it, as I've explained it, is to start at the beginning. Start before the beginning. Start before they become members. Start teaching people early that you'll communicate with them via email, so that when you get to that place where you have to do that crazy thing to try to save them, you have at least one more way to reach out to them. All because you set up 3 very simple machines. There's no reason that you can't do this work. There's no reason that you can't set this up. And frankly, there's no reason that you shouldn't set this up. At the end of the day, this is what you're doing. You're getting people involved with fitness, and you're trying to keep them involved with fitness. If you feel like you need some help with that, if you feel like you have questions, maybe I said something silly. I probably said something silly. Shoot me a DM. Send me an email. I want to talk to you. Hey, thanks for watching my video. There should be some sweet videos popping up. And if you want, you can just shoot me like a DM or something. Especially if you're a gym owner and you have an email that you want me to take a look at, do a close-up. I'd love to check it out. We can feature it here. Everybody will celebrate you. Thanks for joining me.